because there is no way in hell I am going to let you stay in that blah space. People describe this as feeling stuck, being in survival mode. You have to get intentional about where you're headed next, about that destination. Research shows that when you plan something like that, you get 2 bites at the excitement apple. When you add something that you actually want to do, that's the secret. Right now, you got a lot on your plate. Well, guess what?
Hey Mel, it's McKenna. My question for you is, what do you do when you feel blah? Everything is fine, life is going your way, nothing bad is happening, but all of a sudden you're stuck in the limbo of feeling absolutely nothing and lackadaisical. It can last a few minutes or even days. How do you push through and keep on keeping on? But I have a family and young kids that I don't get to see much because of my work schedule, so the time I have is very precious and I'd rather not spend it a gloomy gus. Have you felt like this before? What do you do to get out of it? Thank you for everything.
McKenna. Boy, am I glad you asked me this question, because there is no way in hell I am going to let you stay in that blah space. And you just asked if I've ever felt that way before. Of course I have. This is so normal to have periods of your life where you feel blah, where you feel lackadaisical, where you just kind of have no energy. And there are a lot of words for this. People describe this as feeling stuck, being in survival mode, and coming out of the last 2 to 3 years that we've had, researchers have given it the label languish. It's just sort of this, like, nothing's really wrong, but nothing's really right. You don't really have any enthusiasm. And if I go back to our metaphor about life being one big long road trip, the way that I would describe it is that you're just on autopilot right now. That's right. Cruise control is on. You're rolling down the road of life. You're exhausted. You're trying just to get to the next mile marker. Well, guess what? There's really, really good news here. And the first thing that I want to acknowledge you for is that you've already checked the box on step 1 for changing this situation. And that is, you recognize it. Seriously, it's really important if you relate to what McKenna's saying, or you're going through the motions in life, you're just sort of on autopilot, you're not really paying attention, nothing's wrong, nothing's right, you're kind of blah, you're kind of bored. Step 1 is you got to check the box and say, boom, that's me. I'm on autopilot and I don't want to be on autopilot anymore. Step 2, you have to look ahead at that open road, and you must intentionally figure out a specific destination that makes you excited to drive toward it. One of my fondest memories from childhood was the summer that my father rented a motorhome, and we did a cross-country family road trip to hit as many national parks as we could. And the big, grand prize destination that my dad was like super excited about was we were going to reach Yellowstone, and we were going to stay at that big lodge at Yellowstone, and we were going to be able to see Old Faithful. You want to know why that road trip was so exciting? It was because we always had something on the road ahead to look forward to, whether it was the world famous Corn Palace, which was a stop, or Wall Drug, or Mount Rushmore. We were inching our way toward the big destination, Yellowstone. But along the way, there were all these cool things on the road ahead that we were excited to check out. You need that in your life. And now some of this analogy is starting to make sense, right? Because if you're staring in the rearview mirror, that's not exciting. You're not heading in that direction. If you look out at the open road and you don't see anything in front of you that you're excited about, that's a problem. And so here's the solution, as counterintuitive as it may seem. When you look out on the open road And for me, I always like to go and time travel about 2 years ahead because I think in 24 months, you can chip away and make just about anything happen. That's plenty of time for you to start working toward something new. And there's 5 reasons why this matters. You have to get intentional about where you're headed next, about that destination, about your Yellowstone, which had always been a dream of my father's to take his family there. And there is something that you dream about, and it's time to start dreaming big again, especially if you're feeling blah. And there are 5 reasons why this matters. 5 reasons why you need to dream big. Number one, big dreams, a new destination that you're going to head towards, having something out on the horizon that you're looking forward to, that you're working toward, it creates energy in your life, which is something that you're clearly missing. I can hear it in your voice, McKenna. It creates excitement. It gives you something to look forward to. It gives you a goal to work toward. And when you have this sort of destination out there on the road ahead, just picking your head up out of the monotony of your day-to-day life, it creates momentum. And that forward momentum right out the front on the road ahead, that's so important because that's missing for you right now, isn't it? When you see more of the same old, that's why commutes are so boring. There's nothing new. You're not commuting in your life. You got to create an epic road trip. And speaking of a new destination, a destination like a Yellowstone, something out there 2 years ahead of now, it changes the way you see the world right now. It's very similar to opening up the aperture on a camera to let more light in. New destinations on the road of life open you up to more possibilities in your life. So when you open up to more possibilities, I get it. Things are hard right now. I get it. You got a lot on your plate. Well, guess what? 2 years from now, you can change just about anything. And when you start to open up to bigger dreams, you start to retrain and reshape your outlook, your mind, your attitude to be bigger and better and more exciting than what you're dealing with right now. The third thing that happens when you get very serious about grabbing that wheel and cranking it toward a new destination, you're going to suddenly see all kinds of possibility and changes that you could make. See, this is the part where that blah feeling, it goes away really quickly. And I'm going to give you an example, and then I want to talk about some research about why adding something exciting on the road ahead fixes that feeling of being on autopilot and shakes you free from that heavy blah languish that you're in. Have you ever noticed that the moment that you plan a vacation, let's say you're going to take the kids to Disney, you're going to get away, you immediately feel better. You're not even on vacation. Research shows that when you plan something like that, you get 2 bites at the excitement apple. The first one is just planning it and having that trip to Disney out on the road ahead because now you're excited because you're looking forward to it. And the second boost that you get is when you actually go on the vacation. But the reason why it's so powerful to have something out in the future is just think about how it impacts you before you go away. You're not even there yet. It's a week before you're going to board the plane with your kids and go down to Disney. And you walk into work on a Monday, your boss can pile work up to your eyeballs. Do you care? I don't think so. Why? Because Disney is in your future, and that's pretty cool. So even the demands of your current day-to-day blah draining life, they don't get you down. Why? Because on the road ahead, you got something pretty cool. That trip, just planning it, just visualizing it, just thinking about what's in your future, it boosts your mood. It picks your thoughts up. It even helps you be more productive. And this is all simply because you intentionally put something out in the future, a new destination that makes you excited. That's why this matters so much. And here's the other thing. I know what you're thinking right now. Mel, I don't have time for this shit. A new destination, a trip to Disney. I work so much, I barely see my kids. Well, I got to hit you with some research because particularly when you're exhausted and overwhelmed, and it feels like something needs to give, guess what? We tend to feel like we just need a break from it all. But the research proves something very counterintuitive. Because when you're overwhelmed like McKenna is, when you're feeling checked out, blah, you're on autopilot, cruise control, you're just kind of zoned out in life, do you know what you need? You need engagement. You need to add energizing activities to your schedule. And when you do that, something miraculous happens. You feel like you have more time. I know this is bananas, but let me just kind of unpack this study for you. This was done by Laura Vanderkam. She writes about it in this essay in the New York Times. There's a better way to reclaim your time than quiet quitting. She did a study in 2021 where she worked with super busy people just like you who feel exhausted and tapped out. The people in her study said things like, life feels very chaotic with so many different balls in the air. Same. My work to-do list is never ending. I bet you can relate to that. Or how about this one? I need a few more hours each day in order to have time to just manage my family and my life. Wouldn't that be nice? Well, what she did over the course of 9 weeks, this is really interesting. Instead of asking people to scale back or have better boundaries between work and life, you know what she taught them to do? She taught every one of these folks that are as busy and as burnt out as you that you need to add something. Whether you're building in regular physical activity, or you're building in a new little adventure, or you're putting something that requires effort, but it's meaningful to you, that you choose action over no action. So, for example, instead of just passing out on front of the couch and watching your favorite series, pick up a book and read a novel instead. She also introduced people as busy as you to this principle of take one night for you. And that just means commit for a few hours once a week to doing something you enjoy. It can't be work related, not with your family, but just for a few hours each week. Instead of doing less, add something in. Join a choir, a softball team, and something that makes you. And here's what's amazing about it. When it's something you're interested in doing, even though you look at your schedule right now and it's a giant Jenga puzzle and you're like, I cannot add one more thing to this thing, baloney, you can. Because when you sign up for something that matters for you, you commit to doing it. It nudges you to figure out the logistics, to arrange the childcare, to get your spouse or a friend or a family member to cover for you, even if life feels so busy that you can't even contemplate such a thing right now. And it works. It works. The participants in her studies, believe it or not, even though their schedules when they began the study were just as overwhelming as yours, when they committed to doing something literally like just singing in the church choir, you know what they reported? That their time felt more abundant. This is the Disney effect that I'm talking about. This is like picking your head up out of a monotonous part of the road trip and seeing, oh, wow, every minute we're getting closer and closer to Yellowstone. Oh, wow, I got church choir this week. I got my pickup soccer league this week. I got the tutoring that I'm going to do as a volunteer this week. It re-energizes you. And in fact, people even reported making more progress at work, finding more time with their family. They had an increase of energy and engagement that spilled out into all areas of their life. You know, the fact is, we all have the same 168 hours every single week. But here's the thing about time, and it's also true about the journey of life. Your relationship to time and your relationship to where you are in life is also about the stories that you're telling yourself. Your life is always going to be filled with to-do lists. But when you add something that you actually want to do, that's the secret. You got to add something that means something to you. What happens is when you add that in and it competes with your to-do list, time feels different. You feel more in control of your life because you're saying, I know I got all this shit I got to do, but guess what? I'm making it to choir. I'm making it to tutoring. And speaking of tutoring, I've got all this study right here. Here's another study from just a few years ago that I think is really fascinating. So they took university students, right? Super, super busy, and they divided them into two groups. One group of students were told they could leave class 15 minutes early. So they gave them 15 minutes of extra time. The other group was asked to stay 15 minutes longer and help edit at-risk high school students' essays. You want to know who felt like they had more time? The kids who took 15 minutes to edit those high school students' essays. Why? Well, logically, it doesn't make any sense, does it? Because we literally gave the other students 15 extra minutes. But what did they do with it? Nothing meaningful. They probably walked over to the co-op or sat around and scrolled through social media. What happens to you when you intentionally spend time doing a rewarding and engaging activity? Your time feels less scarce. That's pretty freaking cool. And when you put time into something that is meaningful to you or you find energizing, your whole narrative about your life and your power changes. You no longer feel like your life is a slog. I do this all the time. I'm probably somebody from the outside that you think is one of the busiest people you know, and I am. And there's that saying, you want something done? Ask a busy person, because they figure out how to fit things in. I am doing this 75-day challenge, 75 hard. Why? Not because I have a lot of extra time, but because I know that when I add something in that matters to me, it levels up all areas of my life. I find time when it's important. And there's something about getting really disciplined and excited about doing something for yourself, even though you're super busy, that does spill out into the other areas of your life. In fact, my husband, Chris, right now, he's getting a master's in spiritual psychology. Does he have time to do that? No, not as a hospice volunteer, not as he is busy launching a new program for his men's retreat called Soul Degree. He doesn't have time to do that, but actually he does, because he is making the time. I have seen this research work in my own life. I am telling you, as counterintuitive as it sounds, please look at the road ahead. The best days of your life are ahead of you. You have to start dreaming big right now. And it creates this upward spiral. And I want to give you 2 free, zero-cost resources to help you dream bigger and to help you get clear, because there's a lot of you that are going to now write into me and be like, I don't know what I want. I see the open road, Mel. I want it to be great, but I don't know what I want. No problem. We got you. Zero cost. In the show notes, there are links to 2 episodes of this podcast. One is about dreaming bigger, getting in touch with that burning flame inside of you. And that podcast episode is called Your Dreams Are Not a Joke. It's one of our most shared episodes. You're going to love it. Second episode, another one of our top performing episodes. You guys love this one. You've been sharing it like crazy. It's a toolkit for setting goals. Both of those are master classes that will help you. You're pulled over at this mile marker. We want you to look at the road ahead. You got to start dreaming bigger. You got to insert something into your life right now that makes you excited. You can do this. I started at the very beginning by saying there is a flame burning inside you. There is. You know it. You can feel it. You know that you're meant for more. You know you are not supposed to be broken down on the side of the road on this road trip called life. And I think we underestimate how quickly you can turn your life in a new direction.